It's 2017 and Old Time Radio DVD is still here. Check out our new customer ownership program and the lowest prices ever. Just go to oldtimeradiodvd.com for full information about this wonderful program. Don't forget our new program, 123 Ready TV. Folks, this is really a great app for Android and Windows phones, computers, and tablets. And it's only $19.99. In the near future, we will be adding a new component to it, Old Time Radio. It's a great product for 2017. Visit oldtimeradiodvd.com today. Place your order. You'll be glad you did.
It was Oyasa who broke the silence after Weston's blundering attempts to intimidate the assembled creatures of Malacandra. "We have had mirth enough," he said, "and it is time to hear true answers to our questions. Something is wrong in your head, Hanau from Thalcandra. There is too much blood in it. Is Therikitakila here?" "Here, Oyasa," said a Pfiffeltrig. "Have you in your systems water that has been made cold?" "Yes, Oyasa." "Then let this thick Hanau be taken to the guest house, and let them bathe his head in cold water, much water and many times. Then bring him again. Meanwhile, I will provide for my killed Harossa." Weston did not clearly understand what the voice said. Indeed, he was still too busy trying to find out where it came from. But terror smote in him as he found himself wrapped in the strong arms of the surrounding Harossa and forced away from his place. "And now," said Oyasa when silence was restored, "let us honor my dead Harossa." At his words, 10 of the Harossa grouped themselves about the biers. Lifting their heads, and with no signal given as far as Ransom could see, they began to sing. "Let it go hence," they sang, "let it go hence, dissolve and be nobody. Drop it, release it, drop it gently as a stone is loosed from fingers drooping over a still pool. Let it go down, sink, fall away. Once below the surface there are no divisions, no layers in the water yielding all the way down. All one and all unwounded is that element. Send it voyaging, it will not come again. Let it go down, the Hanau rises from it. This is the second life, the other beginning." This was as much of it as Ransom contrived later to remember and could translate. As the song ended, Oyasa said, "Let us scatter the movements which were their bodies. So will Malaltil scatter all worlds when the first and feeble is worn." He made a sign to one of the Pfiffeltriggi, who instantly arose and approached the corpses. The Harossa, now singing again, but very softly, drew back at least 10 paces. The Pfiffeltrig touched each of the 3 dead in turn with some small object that appeared to be made of glass or crystal, and then jumped away with one of his frog-like leaps. Ransom closed his eyes to protect them from a blinding light and felt something like a very strong wind blowing in his face for a fraction of a second. Then all was calm again, and the 3 biers were empty. "God, that would be a trick worth knowing on Earth," said Devine to Ransom. "As long as the murderer's problem about the disposal of the body, eh?" But Ransom, who was thinking of Hayoi, did not answer him, and before he spoke again, everyone's attention was diverted by the return of the unhappy Weston among his guards. The Haross who headed this procession was a conscientious creature, began at once explaining itself in a rather troubled voice. "I hope we have done right, Oyasa," it said, "but we do not know. We dipped his head in the cold water 7 times. "You have done very well, Honu," said Oyasa. "Stand away that I may see it, for now I will speak to it." The guards fell away on each side. Weston's usually pale face, under the bracing influence of the cold water, had assumed the colour of a ripe tomato, and his hair, which had naturally not been cut since he reached Malacandra, was plastered in straight, blank masses across his forehead. A good deal of water was still dripping over his nose and ears. Yvain shouted out to Weston in English, "Now steady, Weston. These devils can split the atom or something pretty like it. Be careful what you say to them, and don't let's have any of your bloody nonsense." "Huh," said Weston. "So you've gone native too." "Be silent," said the voice of Oyasa. "You, thick one, have told me nothing of yourself, so I will tell it to you. In your own world you have attained great wisdom concerning bodies, and by this you have been able to make a ship that can cross the heaven. But in all other things you have the mind of an animal. When first you came here, I sent for you, meaning you nothing but honor. The darkness of your own mind filled you with fear. Because you thought I meant evil to you, you went as a beast goes against a beast of some other kind, and snared this ransom. You would give him up to the evil you feared. Today, seeing him here, to save your own life, you would have given him to me a second time, still thinking I meant him hurt. These are your dealings with your own kind. And what you intend to my people, I know. Already you have killed some, and you have come here to kill them all. If you were mine, I would unbody you even now. Do not think follies. By my hand, Malel does greater things than this, and I can unmake you even on the borders of your own world's air. But I do not yet resolve to do this. It is for you to speak. Let me see if there is anything in your mind besides fear and death and desire." Weston turned to Ransom. "I see," he said, "that you have chosen the most momentous crisis in the history of the human race to betray it." Then he turned in the direction of the voice. "I know you will kill us," he said. "Me not afraid. Others come. Make it our world." But Devine had jumped to his feet and interrupted him. No, Oyasa," he shouted. "You no listen to him. He very foolish man. He have dreams. We little people only want pretty sunbloods. You give us plenty sunbloods, we go back into sky. You never see us no more. All done, see?" "Silence," said Oyasa. There was an almost imperceptible change in the light, if it could be called light, out of which the voice came, and Devine crumpled up and fell back on the ground. When he resumed his sitting position, he was white and panting. "Speak on," said Oyasa to Weston. "Me no, began Weston in Malacandrian and then broke off. "I can't say what I want in that accursed language," he said in English. "Speak to Ransom, and he shall turn it into our speech," said Oyasa. Weston accepted the arrangement at once. He believed that the hour of his death was come, and he was determined to utter the thing, almost the only thing outside his own science, which he had to say. He cleared his throat. Almost he struck a gesture, and began, "To you, I may seem a vulgar robber, but I bear on my shoulders the destiny of the human race. Your tribal life, with its Stone Age weapons and beehive huts, its primitive coracles and elementary social structure, has nothing to compare with our civilization, with our science, medicine, and law, our armies, our architecture, our commerce, and our transport system, which is rapidly annihilating space and time. Our right to supersede you is the right of the higher over the lower. Like..." "Half a moment," said Ransom in English. "That's about as much as I can manage at one go." Then, turning to Oyasa, he began translating as well as he could. As soon as Ransom had finished, Weston continued. "Life is greater than any system of morality. Her claims are absolute. She has ruthlessly broken down all obstacles and liquidated all failures, and today, in her highest form, civilized man, and in me, as his representative, she presses forward to that interplanetary leap which will, perhaps, place her forever beyond the reach of death. It is in her right," continued Weston, "the right, or if you will, the might of life herself, that I am prepared, without flinching, to plant the flag of man on the soil of Malacandra, to march on, step by step, superseding, where necessary, the lower forms of life that we find, claiming planet after planet, system after system, till our posterity, whatever strange form and yet unguessed mentality they have assumed, dwell in the universe wherever the universe is habitable." "I may fall," said Weston, "but while I live, I will not, with such a key in my hand, consent to close the gates of the future of my race. What lies in that future, beyond our present ken, passes imagination to conceive. It is enough for me that there is a beyond." He is saying, Ransom ended his translation, that he will not stop trying to do all this unless you kill him. And he says that though he doesn't know what will happen to the creatures sprung from us, he wants it to happen very much. Weston, who had now finished his statement, looked around instinctively for a chair to sink into. On Earth, he usually sank into a chair as the applause began. Finding none, and he was not the kind of man to sit on the ground like Devine, he folded his arms and stared with a certain dignity about him. "It is well that I have heard you," said Oyasa. "For though your mind is feeble, your will is less bent than I thought. It is not for yourself that you would do all this?" "No," said Weston proudly in Malacandrian. "Me die, man live." "Yet you know that these creatures would have to be made quite unlike you before they lived on other worlds." "Yes, yes. All new. No one know yet. Strange. Big." "Then it is not the shape of body that you love?" "No. Me no care how they shaped." "One would think, then, that it is for the mind you care. But that cannot be, or you would love Hanau wherever you met it." "No care for Hanau. Care for man." "But if it is neither man's mind, which is as the mind of all other Hanau, is not Malalil maker of them all, nor his body, which will change? If you care for neither of these, what do you mean by man?" This had to be translated to Weston. When he understood it, he replied, "Me care for man, care for our race, what man begets." He had to ask Ransom the words for race and beget. "Strange," said Oyasa. "You do not love anyone of your race. You would have let me kill Ransom. You do not love the mind of your race, nor the body. Any kind of creature will please you if only it is begotten by your kind as they now are. It seems to me, thick one, that what you really love is no completed creature but the very seed itself. For that is all that is left." "Tell him," said Weston, when he had been made to understand this, "that I don't pretend to be a metaphysician. I have not come here to chop logic. If he cannot understand, as apparently you can't either, anything so fundamental as a man's loyalty to humanity, I can't make him understand it." But Ransom was unable to translate this, and the voice of Oyasa continued, "Tell me, thick one, why did you come here?" "Me tell you. Make man live all the time." "But are your wise men so ignorant as not to know that Malacandra is older than your own world and nearer its death? Most of it is dead already. My people live only in the Handramits. The heat and the water have been more and will be less. Soon now, very soon, I will end my world and give back my people to Manaldil." "Me know all that plenty. This is only first try. Soon they go on another world." "But do you not know that all worlds will die?" "Men go jump off each before it deads, and on, see?" "And when all are dead?" Weston was silent. After a time, Oyasa spoke again. "Do you not ask why my people whose world is old have not rather come to yours and taken it long ago?" "Ho, said Weston. "You not know how." "You are wrong," said Oyasa. "Many thousands of thousand years before this, when nothing yet lived on your world, the cold death was coming on my Harandra. Then I was in deep trouble, not chiefly for the death of my Hanau. Malalil does not make them long livers, but for the things which the Lord of your world, who was not yet bound, put into their minds. He would have made them as your people are now, wise enough to see the death of their kind approaching, but not wise enough to endure it. Bent councils would soon have risen among them. They were well able to have made skyships. By me, Malalil stopped them. Some I cured, some I unbodied." "And see what come," interrupted Weston. "You now very few. Shut up in Handramits. Soon all die." "Yes," said Oyasa. "But one thing we left behind us on the Harandra, fear. And with fear, murder and rebellion. The weakest of my people does not fear death. It is the bent one, the lord of your world, who wastes your lives and befouls them with flying from what you know will overtake you in the end. If you were subjects of Maladil, you would have peace." Weston writhed in the exasperation born of his desire to speak and his ignorance of the language. "Trash! Defeatist trash!" he shouted at Oyasa in English. I must learn more of your world from Ransom, said Oyasa, and for that I need till night. I will not kill you, not even the thin one, for you are out of my world. Tomorrow you shall go hence again in your ship. Devine's face suddenly fell. He began talking rapidly in English. For God's sake, Weston, make him understand. Look, we've been here for months. The Earth is not in opposition now. Tell him it can't be done. He might as well kill us at once. How long will your journey be to Thalcandra? Asked Oyasa. Weston, using Ransom as his interpreter, explained that the journey in the present position of the two planets was almost impossible. The distance had increased by millions of miles. The angle of their course to the solar rays would be totally different from that which he had counted upon. Even if by 100th chance they could hit the Earth, it was almost certain that their supply of oxygen would be exhausted long before they arrived. Tell him to kill us now, he added. All this I know, said Oyasa, and if you stay in my world, I must kill you. No such creatures will I suffer in Malacandra. I know there is small chance of your reaching your world, but small is not the same as none. Between now and the next moon, choose which you will take. In the meantime, tell me this. If you reach it at all, what is the most time you will need? After a prolonged calculation, Weston, in a shaken voice, replied that if they had not made it in 90 days, they would never make it, and they would, moreover, be dead of suffocation. 90 days you shall have, said Oyasa. My Sorns and Pfiffeltricky will give you air. We also have that art, and food for 90 days. But they will do something else to your ship. I am not minded that it should return into the heaven if once it reached Thalcandra. You, thick one, were not here when I unmade my dead Harossa, whom you killed. The thin one will tell you. This I can do as Maladil has taught me, over a gap of time or a gap of place. Before your skyship rises, my Sorns will have so dealt with it that on the 90th day it will unbody, it will become what you call nothing. If that day finds it in heaven, your death will be no bitterer because of this. But do not tarry in your ship if once you touch Thalcandra. Now lead these two away, and do you, my children, go where you will. But I must talk with Ransom. All that afternoon, Ransom remained alone, answering Oyasa's questions. I am not allowed to record this conversation, beyond saying that the voice concluded it with the words, You have shown me more wonders than are known in the whole of heaven. After that, they discussed Ransom's own future. He was given full liberty to remain in Malacandra or to attempt the desperate voyage to Earth. The problem was agonizing to him. In the end, he decided to throw in his lot with Weston and Devine. Love of your own kind, he said, is not the greatest of laws, but you, Oyasa, have said it is a law. If I cannot live in Thalcandra, it is better for me not to live at all. You have chosen rightly, said Oyasa, and I will tell you two things. My people will take all the strange weapons out of the ship, but they will give one to you. And the Eldilla of deep heaven will be about your ship till it reaches the air of Thalcandra, and often in it. They will not let the other two kill you. It had not occurred to Ransom before that his own murder might be one of the first expedients for economizing food and oxygen which would occur to Weston and Devine. He was now astonished at his own obtuseness, and thanked Oyasa for his protective measures. Then the great Eldil dismissed him. You are guilty of no evil, Ransom of Thalcandra, except a little fearfulness. For that, the journey you go on is your own pain and perhaps your cure. For you must be either mad or brave before it is ended. But I lay also a command on you. You must watch this Weston and this Devine in Thalcandra if ever you arrive there. They may yet do much evil in and beyond your world. From what you have told me, I begin to see that there are Eldilla who go down into your air, into the very strongholds of the Bent One. Your world is not so fast shut as was thought in these parts of heaven. Watch those two. Be courageous. Fight them. And when you have need, some of our people will help. Malaldil will show them to you. It may even be that you and I shall meet again while you are still in the body. For it is not without the wisdom of Malaldil that we have met now, and I have learned so much of your world. It seems to me that this is the beginning of more comings and goings between the heavens and the worlds, and between one world and another, though not such as the thick one hoped. I'm allowed to tell you this. The year we are now in, but heavenly years are not as yours, has long been prophesied as a year of stirrings and high changes, and the siege of Thalcandra may be near its end. Great things are on foot. If Malaldil does not forbid me, I will not hold aloof from them. And now, farewell. It was through vast crowds of all the Malacandrian species that the three human beings embarked next day on their terrible journey. Weston was pale and haggard from a night of calculations intricate enough to tax any mathematician, even if his life did not hang on them. Devine was noisy, reckless, and a little hysterical. His whole view of Malacandra had been altered overnight by the discovery that the natives had an alcoholic drink, and he'd even been trying to teach them to smoke. Only the pitiful Triggy had made much of it. He was now consoling himself for an acute headache and the prospect of a lingering death by tormenting Weston. Neither party was pleased to find that all weapons had been removed from the spaceship, but in other respects, everything was as they wished it. At about an hour after noon, Ransom took a last long look at the blue waters, purple forest, and remote green walls of the familiar Handramit, and followed the other two through the manhole of the spaceship. Before it was closed, Weston warned them that they must economize air by absolute stillness. No unnecessary movement must be made during their voyage. Even talking must be prohibited. "I shall speak only in an emergency," he said. "Thank God for that, anyway," was Devine's last shot. Then they screwed themselves in.